All right, tonight, still no word on just who Trump will tap to be his running mate. And while it's unlikely that former Ambassador Nikki Haley is in the running after a contentious primary, Trump and Haley are now both working to unite the Republican Party. Watch this.
Nikki Haley said today that she's going to vote for you. It looks like the Republican Party is coming together.
Yeah, I think it is coming together. I think it's come together for a long time. You have to understand, we did the nomination process the fastest in history. You know, if somebody else were running, they'd still be running for another month in order to get the nomination. We did it 2 months ago. But the party is together. I appreciate what she said. The party is together, and I think we're going to have a tremendous
We saw it earlier.
Joining us now with reaction, Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce and the Tudor Dixon podcast host, aptly named after Tudor Dixon. Thank you so much for joining us on Hannity tonight. Tammy, let's go to you first. Pretty magnanimous of both of them to kind of throw their differences aside and say, hey, we're going to vote and support Donald Trump. And I thought Donald Trump was very magnanimous back to Nikki Haley for doing that.
Yeah, this has always been an all-hands-on-deck endeavor. It has to be. There's been a recognition, and President Trump's doing what he's doing, and they're trying to destroy his life. He keeps doing it anyway because it's not about him. He actually knows this. He's standing up, obviously, for everyone else, for America, in order to make this work with the damage that has been inflicted, Jason, over the last several years, and with what's been revealed over the last few years about the nature of the bureaucracy. Trump needs everybody on deck. The talent bench for the GOP is deep. And I also like Nikki Haley. And I appreciate ambition. She's an ambitious woman. The founders knew that it was, well, they've cast it as ambitious men. And it's really ambitious people who saved this nation. So, but he also needs people in the closest realm whom he can trust, because we've also seen with the betrayal, the lack of decorum and appreciation for him and certain other staff members over the years. So considering the nation's at stake, it's got to be people around him who understand the American people, why we are choosing him, the job that he's got to get done, that only he can do, but he needs the support of a team. And I think Haley understands that. Where she would land, I don't know. Ron DeSantis is in the same boat, right? You've got a lot of great personalities, but it's about the team that makes this work, understanding the importance and the power and the value of Donald Trump in this unique period of time. And then we can start thinking about 28 and 32 and all those other things. It's going to take generations to repair this damage.
Yeah. Tudor, I thought Nikki Haley, her timing was good. She did make a national pledge that she would support the Republican nominee, and she followed through on that.
Absolutely. I think it was perfect timing. She needed some time to show that she really wanted to think about what happened, talk to her donors and talk to her supporters. All of the people that came to those rallies, she needed to give them time also to heal from that and decide that they were also going to come and bring the party together. But I think in addition to that, she gave the Democrats time to believe that they could take her supporters. And I think that was very key to make sure that for a while they believed they had a chance. And she allowed those polls to creep up for Donald Trump. And just, I believe at the right moment, she came out and said, he's my guy. You guys pretty much always knew he was going to be my guy. When I stepped out of the race, you knew I was going to vote Republican. But now I'm coming out as he is high in the polls, and Democrats are wondering what they're going to do to say, I'm voting with him, and I'm going to take my supporters with me.
So the job of anybody running for office is it to expand the tent, right? To go out and get those independent voters and voters that would have voted on the other side of the aisle, maybe for somebody else. The game we have now is trying to guess who the vice presidential pick's going to be, because Donald Trump said he's probably going to do that at the convention. That's less than 2 months away. So what's your best bet for each of you? What's your guess? Who should Donald Trump pick for his vice president? Tammy, go first, please.
Well, you know, I've always thought the best team was Trump and DeSantis. We saw with the governor that he wasn't quite sure about how to handle a national campaign. That tells you that there is something that there's a few things to learn before you become president. Being in that vice presidency would help him understand that what's happening to Trump isn't just for Trump, that this is, again, about teamwork, but it's also about the power of a personality. He's young. He's in his 40s. I think that is an excellent position for him. At the same time, you've got to make sure that people understand. And that's the problem with Nikki. She didn't necessarily understand what the American people were thinking and doing. But I think DeSantis should be the choice. But there's plenty of others, and I'll be thrilled with whoever he picks.
All right, Tudor, you're up. Who's your best bet?
You know, I agree. I actually don't think that it's that important. I think the people that he is looking at right now, the lists that have been leaked, if they are accurate, all of those people would make a great vice president and would be able to step into that position if need be. They would be a fabulous pair, but Donald Trump doesn't need to come out with a vice presidential pick to get people to come onto his team and to vote for him. People are coming out for Donald Trump. So as much as we talk about the vice presidency, it's really about him, and no one is going to help him or hurt him. He's going to carry that person through.
Well, I think I agree with both of you. I think there's a lot of good people out there. Governor DeSantis, Senator Tim Scott, Senator Marco Rubio, John Ratcliffe, the former congressman, Robert O'Brien, the former national security advisor. But the best analysis I heard so far is that Dr. Ben Carson, because he probably doesn't want to become the next president, even though he's highly qualified, he won't be trying to run while he's in office for 4 years as the vice president. That's an interesting thing, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about that on Hannity. Tammy Bruce, Tudor Dixon, thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.